Never beg, never chase, never explain. This is the brutal foundation of power, and if you learn it now, your entire life will shift into a new orbit. People only value what stands tall, what moves with certainty, what carries the quiet fire of self-belief. The moment you beg for attention, you announce your weakness. The moment you chase someone, you surrender your throne. And the moment you explain yourself, you hand your power into their hands. In Machiavelli's world, and in yours, perception is everything. You must become a man who acts, not a man who pleads, a man who decides, not a man who waits to be chosen. When you remove desperation from your energy, people feel it. They stop testing you. They stop doubting you. They stop treating you like an option. You become a presence, unpredictable, controlled, difficult to read, impossible to break. And understand this, mystery isn't created by pretending. Mystery is created by discipline, by silence, by choosing not to respond instantly, not to reveal everything, not to prove yourself to anyone. From this moment forward, you move like someone who knows his worth without needing the world to approve it. Comment: I don't chase, I choose. Number 2, the power of silent control. Power begins the moment you stop reacting to everything thrown at you and start controlling what deserves your energy. Most people are slaves to impulses. Someone disrespects them, they explode. Someone ignores them, they explode. They panic. Someone challenges them, they rush to defend themselves. But you are not most people anymore. You are stepping into a realm where silence is a weapon, patience is dominance, and selective attention is pure psychological warfare. When you stop reacting emotionally, you take away the enemy's favorite tool, your predictability. They can no longer manipulate you, provoke you, or steer your behavior. Your silence becomes a mirror that forces them to confront their own insecurity. Your calm becomes intimidation they cannot decode, and your emotional detachment becomes a signal that you are operating from a higher level of discipline. Machiavelli understood this deeply. The most powerful individuals were the ones who spoke less and observed more, who mastered their impulses, and who never explained their moves unless it benefited them strategically. Your value increases the moment people realize they cannot read you, cannot control you, cannot shake you. That mystery creates pressure, and pressure makes people reveal themselves. They slip, they expose agendas, they show you exactly where their fear lies. Meanwhile, you remain still, centered, unbothered, calculating. This is how you reclaim control in relationships, in business, in social dynamics. Not through aggression, but through deliberate restraint. Not through noise, but through unbreakable composure. Let people wonder what you're thinking. Let them doubt whether they still have access to you. Let them feel your absence more powerfully than your presence. The less you say, the more they think about you. The slower you move, the more they study your next step. The calmer you remain, the more dangerous you become. This is the architecture of quiet dominance, where mystery becomes magnetism and composure becomes the sharpest blade in your arsenal. Comment: silence is my power. Number 3, the art of being unavailable. Powerful people are not everywhere, not for everyone, and not accessible at every moment, and this is exactly why the world respects them. Availability decreases value. Scarcity multiplies it. When you are always present, always replying instantly, always showing up whenever someone calls, you unconsciously signal that your time has no weight, your energy has no price, and your presence has no power. Machiavelli warned that a man who is too easily reached becomes too easily used. So understand this: the art of being unavailable is not about arrogance. It is about strategic self-preservation. You must decide who earns your time, who deserves your presence, and who has the right to stand close to you. When you pull back intentionally, people feel the vacuum you create. They notice your absence. They replay their last interaction with you. They wonder what changed, what you're thinking, what you're doing, and whether they still matter in the orbit of your priorities. This psychological distance forces people to value you because humans crave what is not guaranteed. By reducing your accessibility, you increase your significance. By controlling your availability, you rewrite the dynamic. Suddenly, people wait for your messages instead of you waiting for theirs. They adjust to your timing instead of expecting you to bend to theirs. They work for your attention instead of taking it for granted. This is not manipulation. It is equilibrium. It is your refusal to let anyone drain your focus, disrespect your boundaries, or treat your presence as something cheap. And here is the deeper truth. A man who is comfortable being alone becomes terrifying to the world. He does not cling. He does not beg. He does not chase. He does not fear losing anyone because he understands that anyone who is meant for him will respect the value he protects. Your power grows when you detach from the need to be constantly connected. When your time is guarded, your presence becomes influence. When your attention is earned, not given, people treat it like treasure. So step back, slow down, stop offering yourself so freely. Build a life where your absence speaks louder than other people's presence. Comment, my value rises in silence. Number 4, the value of not needing anyone. The moment you stop needing anyone, you become the most powerful version of yourself because need is the root of manipulation, desperation, and emotional slavery. When someone knows you need their approval, their attention, their affection, or their validation, they own your mind like a landlord owns land. You live on their emotional property. But when you detach from need, when you learn to stand alone without craving anyone's presence or permission, you become untouchable. Machiavelli understood that the most feared and respected individuals were those who moved independently, who answered to no one's expectations but their own, who were guided by purpose rather than attachment. Not needing anyone doesn't mean rejecting everyone. It means refusing to let anyone dictate your worth. It means knowing that you can rebuild your life from zero if you must. It means recognizing that solitude sharpens a man in ways comfort never will. When you stop needing people, your relationships transform. You stop chasing the unreliable. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop explaining yourself to those who cannot understand you. You stop trying to prove your worth to those who were never worthy of your time in the first place. Instead, your energy becomes selective. Your presence becomes expensive. Your attention becomes rare. People feel the shift. They feel you pulling back from the emotional dependency that once allowed them to influence your mood, your choices, your identity, and paradoxically, the moment you no longer need someone is the moment they begin to fear losing you, because the world is addicted to those who don't need it. A man who can walk away at any moment is a man who commands respect in every direction. So strip away the illusion that you need anyone to complete you. Build yourself so fully that people become bonuses, not necessities. Stand firm in the truth that your value comes from within, not from who stays, who leaves, or who pays attention. The less you depend on others, the more they depend on you. Comment, I need no one to rise. Number 5, control your responses. Control the room. Powerful men are not defined by what happens to them. They are defined by how they respond, because response is where dominance is built, respect is earned, and psychological advantage is created. Most people react instantly, emotionally, and recklessly, exposing their insecurities with every word they throw out. But a man operating under Machiavelli's code understands that every response is a move in a silent game of influence. He knows that tone, timing, and intention carry more strength than volume or emotion ever could. When you control your responses, you control the room because you decide the direction of the conversation, the emotional temperature, and the power balance. When you pause before reacting, you create uncertainty. When you speak slowly and deliberately, you project authority. When you choose silence over impulsive anger, you force others to reveal their true hand. This is where dark psychology comes into play. Most people cannot tolerate silence, cannot endure uncertainty, cannot handle someone who refuses to react the way they expect. Your calm unsettles them. Your restraint confuses them. Your composure makes them question their assumptions and their own emotional stability. And the less they understand you, the more they fear misstepping around you. This is how you gain subtle control without lifting a finger. Every feud becomes optional. Every insult becomes irrelevant. Every provocation becomes a tool you can flip back onto the other person. When you respond only when it benefits you strategically, your presence shifts from reactive to commanding. You're no longer playing defense. You're dictating the flow of interaction. This not only elevates your social power, but also protects your mental clarity. Because uncontrolled reaction is the fastest way to lose leverage, but calculated response is the quickest way to build influence. Machiavelli believed a leader must be both lion and fox, the strength to face conflict and the intelligence to navigate it. Your controlled responses are the fox's mind directing the lion's force. They make you unpredictable yet composed, confident yet restrained, dangerous yet silent. When you master this, you no longer explain yourself, because the truth is held in your behavior, not your words. You no longer chase validation because your value is expressed through your discipline. You no longer beg for understanding because your actions speak with the clarity of power. From now on, every response you give must serve your kingdom, not your ego. Comment: my composure is my weapon. Number 6. Become the man they can't read, can't predict, and can't control. Power reaches its highest form when people cannot read you, cannot predict you, and cannot control you, because mystery is a psychological force that bends the world toward you. Most men expose themselves without realizing it. They overshare, they vent, they explain every emotion, they announce every plan, they reveal every insecurity, and in doing so, they hand over their entire blueprint to people who haven't earned a single piece of it. But a man living by Machiavelli's code understands a ruthless truth. The less people know, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the more they fear. The more they fear, the more they respect. You must become the kind of man whose silence is louder than other people's noise, whose restraint is more intimidating than anger, and whose unpredictability keeps others walking carefully around your presence. When people cannot predict your moves, they hesitate. Hesitation is power. When they cannot read your intentions, they guard their own. Guarded people make mistakes. When they cannot control your emotions, they lose their ability to influence your behavior. This is the psychological asymmetry you must build, one where you see everything but reveal nothing, where you listen deeply but speak selectively, where you move deliberately but never announce your next step. Machiavelli taught that a leader must conceal his motives until the moment action is unavoidable. You are not hiding out of fear, you are hiding out of strategy. Your privacy becomes armor, your unpredictability becomes leverage, your mystery becomes magnetism. And understand this, unpredictability does not mean chaos, it means controlled intention. It means being emotionally stable but behaviorally unreadable. It means choosing not to reveal whether you are hurt, angry, disappointed, or uninterested. It means refusing to give people the emotional map they need to manipulate you. Once others know what affects you, they can shape you. Once they know what triggers you, they can provoke you. Once they know what you fear, they can corner you. So you must eliminate the emotional transparency that weak men carry like a visible scar. You must learn to sit with discomfort without showing it. You must learn to walk away without announcing it. You must learn to let people guess, assume, and overthink while you stay grounded in your quiet certainty. And here's the paradox that makes this strategy so powerful. The man who reveals the least ends up being the man everyone watches the most. Your absence becomes suspicious. Your silence becomes intriguing. Your calm becomes threatening. Your confidence becomes contagious. People start replaying their conversations with you, analyzing your expressions, searching for hidden meanings. Meanings that may not even exist, but their minds will create them anyway. This is the invisible power that grows from being unreadable. It makes people treat you with caution. It makes them seek your approval more carefully. It makes them avoid disappointing you. And it makes your presence feel rare, valuable, and commanding. When you are predictable, people handle you casually. When you are unreadable, they handle you with respect. When you are unreactive, they handle you with fear. That is the energy you must carry. A calm, controlled, mysterious presence that forces the world to respond to you differently. This is not about pretending. It is about transforming. You are no longer the man who explains himself. You are no longer the man who chases clarity. You are no longer the man who begs to be understood. From this point forward, you are the man who chooses when to speak, when to react, when to reveal, and when to disappear. You decide the emotional pace. You decide the psychological tone. You decide the level of access people get. And in doing so, you rise above the noise of weak men who spend their lives leaking their power without realizing it. Your mystery becomes your throne. Your silence becomes your sword. Your unpredictability becomes your shield. And your emotional discipline becomes the signature that marks you as a man built by intention, not impulse. Comment: my mystery is my power. Number 7. The strategic withdrawal that makes you impossible to replace. There comes a point in every powerful man's evolution where he realizes that presence alone is not what creates influence. Strategic withdrawal is. Anyone can show up, anyone can talk, anyone can demand attention, but it takes a man of brutal self-control to pull back at the exact moment others expect him to engage. This withdrawal is not weakness, it is a psychological maneuver that shifts the entire dynamic in your favor. Most people live in constant emotional exposure. They need to be seen, heard, validated, acknowledged, appreciated. They fear being forgotten, replaced, ignored, or misunderstood. But you are being shaped into something far greater. A man who understands that the quickest way to build value is to disappear on purpose. Because absence ignites curiosity, curiosity creates tension, and tension is the birthplace of power. When you step back intentionally, people suddenly notice the silence where your voice used to be, the emptiness where your presence once stood, the missing energy that only you provided. They replay conversations, they wonder if they did something wrong, they analyze their behavior, they feel your absence tightening around their thoughts like a quiet grip. And that is the moment you become irreplaceable, not because you begged for significance, but because you created psychological contrast. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must never be too accessible because over-familiarity breeds disrespect. When people believe you will always be there, they handle you carelessly. They speak to you recklessly, they take you for granted without hesitation. But when you introduce a calculated distance, when you stop being constantly available, when you slow your responses and move with intention instead of urgency, people recalibrate their entire approach to you. You become someone they must earn again, someone they must think about before speaking, someone they must value before losing. And here's the dark psychology behind it. The human mind never obsesses over what it fully understands. It obsesses over what it cannot grasp. It craves uncertainty. It fixates on unfinished stories. It chases answers where clarity does not exist. When you withdraw strategically, you turn yourself into an unfinished story, a man whose motives are unclear, whose intentions are unreadable, whose silence is louder than confrontation. People feel drawn to you not because you demand their attention, but because their minds refuse to release the tension you create. That is the highest form of leverage. This is why the strongest men do not chase. They let others chase clarity. They don't explain. They let others fill in the gaps. They don't rush to fix misunderstandings. They allow time to reveal the truth. And here is the most important part. The man who knows how to step back also knows when to step back. Not out of fear, not out of insecurity, but out of strategy. You step back when your presence begins to feel too accessible. You step back when someone treats you like an option. You step back when respect begins to soften. You step back when your value is no longer recognized. And the moment you do, you force the world to feel the shift. They compare everyone else to you and find no substitute. They realize how rare your energy was. They recognize how balanced, composed, and intentional you always were. Withdrawal exposes the truth about people. You see who reaches out, who stays silent, who panics, who pretends not to care, who tries to pull you back, and who never truly valued you to begin with. It reveals hidden loyalties and hidden disloyalties. It shows you who respects your boundaries and who is addicted to your attention. It is the ultimate filter, and once you learn the timing of withdrawal, you gain the ability to command a room without speaking, influence a situation without moving, and shift a relationship without explaining. This is not ghosting, it is governing, not abandonment, refinement, not manipulation, mastery. You are conditioning the world to handle you with respect, or not handle you at all. This is how powerful men preserve their dignity. This is how kings protect their energy. This is how leaders maintain psychological advantage. You must become the man whose absence speaks louder than other people's presence, whose withdrawal creates more impact than another's effort, whose silence holds more weight than another's shouting. The man who can step back without fear becomes the man the world steps toward without hesitation. This is how you make yourself unforgettable, by not being constantly reachable. This is how you make yourself respected, by not being constantly present. This is how you make yourself irreplaceable, by choosing distance with discipline, not emotion. Comment: my absence creates power. Number 8. The power of not explaining yourself to anyone. One of the most transformative shifts a man can make is learning to move through life without explaining himself. Because explanation is often a confession, an admission that you feel the need to justify your decisions, soften your intentions, or seek approval from people who have no authority over your destiny. Weak men overshare. Weak men justify. Weak men rush to prove their innocence, prove their intentions, prove their worth. But a man shaped by Machiavelli's code understands that explanation is a currency he does not spend, because every explanation you give teaches the world how to decode you. It teaches them what you fear. It teaches them what you defend. It teaches them what you crave. And once the world knows these things, you are no longer a mystery. You are a map. And maps can be navigated, manipulated, and controlled. This is why silence is dangerous. This is why restraint is intimidating. This is why composure is power. When you live without explaining yourself, your choices take on a sharpness that cuts through the noise of other people's opinions. People will question you, misunderstand you, doubt you, and project their assumptions onto you. But none of that holds power unless you react to it. Explanation gives power to the accuser. Silence gives power to you. When someone challenges you and you do not defend yourself, they feel uncertainty. When someone tries to provoke you and you do not respond, they feel inferior. When someone tries to guilt you and you stay calm, they feel exposed. The world expects emotional compliance. They want you to bend, justify, and seek reassurance. But when you refuse, you break the unspoken psychological contract they rely on to feel superior. And this is where your dominance begins. Machiavelli wrote that a leader must guard his intentions like a fortress, revealing nothing except what benefits him. The less people understand about your motives, the more they adapt their behavior around you. People work harder to please you when they don't know where they stand. They become more cautious when they don't know how you interpret their actions. They behave more respectfully when they are unsure how you might respond. Your silence becomes a pressure they cannot escape. Your lack of explanation becomes an emotional test they either pass or fail. And here is the deeper psychological truth. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop seeking permission. You stop seeking validation. You stop seeking emotional approval from people too fragile to understand your path. You free yourself from the prison of perception. You no longer live to satisfy expectations. You live to fulfill your mission. But this level of discipline requires strength, because the world will try to bait you into explaining. They will say, "You've changed." They will say, "You're acting different." They will say, "Why didn't you tell me?" They will say, "You owe me a reason." But here is the truth. You owe no one anything except the man you are becoming. You do not owe explanations for your growth, your goals, your boundaries, your silence, your distance, your standards, your ambitions, your decisions, your priorities, or your evolution. The people who demand explanations are often the same ones who benefit the most when you remain small, predictable, and compliant. Your refusal to explain yourself is not rudeness, it is protection. Protection of your peace, protection of your plans, protection of your personal power, because every time you explain yourself, you hand a piece of that power away. And every time you stay silent, you reinforce the truth that your life is governed by intention, not opinion. There is also a strategic advantage. When you stop explaining, you force people to judge you by your actions, not your words. Weak men talk, strong men move. And the man who moves without explaining carries an aura of focus that the world cannot ignore. People feel the weight of your decisions. They see the clarity in your behavior. They sense the discipline in your silence. And silently, they align themselves with your energy, whether they admit it or not. Because the human mind is drawn to what it cannot fully grasp. Your silence becomes influence. Your restraint becomes power. Your mystery becomes authority. You become the man people talk about, think about, study, observe, and try to understand, but cannot decode. And remember this: when you stop explaining, you stop apologizing. And when you stop apologizing, you stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. That is the moment you step into your highest identity. That is the moment you gain psychological sovereignty. That is the moment you become untouchable. Comment: I explain nothing, I rise. Number 9. Never chase again. Let them feel the void you leave behind. Power begins the moment you stop chasing anything: attention, validation, people, opportunities, love, loyalty, admiration, closure, or explanations, because the act of chasing shifts the psychological balance and places the other person or object above you. Machiavelli understood that the one who chases announces his inferiority, and the one who stands still forces the world to revolve around him. When you chase, you communicate lack. When you chase, you communicate insecurity. When you chase, you communicate that you believe the other person holds something essential to your identity or future. But when you stop chasing, you reclaim dominance over your own narrative. You communicate that your life moves forward, regardless of who stays or leaves. You communicate that your value is self-contained. You communicate that you are the prize, not the pursuer. The man who stops chasing becomes a gravitational force, pulling the world toward him through confidence, restraint, and unshakable self-worth. This is where dark psychology reveals its truth. Humans are hardwired to want what they cannot easily have. The moment you stop giving someone the comfort of being wanted, they begin to feel the discomfort of being uncertain. Uncertainty spreads through the mind like a quiet storm. They wonder why your energy changed, why your focus shifted, why your presence evaporated, why your attention disappeared. And that wondering becomes anxiety. That anxiety becomes curiosity. That curiosity becomes obsession. People chase what they fear losing, and they fear losing what they cannot predict. When you stop chasing, you transform yourself from a seeker into a standard. The world measures itself against you instead of the other way around. But this requires a strength most men never develop, because the urge to chase usually comes from emotional wounds, abandonment, insecurity, loneliness, loss, ego, or the need for external validation. To break this cycle, you must confront a brutal truth. Chasing is not about wanting others. It is about avoiding yourself. When you slow down, when you detach, when you step back, you are forced to face the parts of yourself that you once covered with constant activity, constant communication, constant attachment. And it is in this internal confrontation where real power is forged. Because the man who can sit with himself is the man who no longer fears distance. The man who can be alone is the man who no longer fears loss. The man who can walk away is the man who no longer fears rejection. And the man who no longer fears rejection becomes unstoppable. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must never appear desperate, because desperation weakens authority. The same applies to you. Your emotional presence must be rooted in choice, not need. This means allowing people to drift away without panicking. It means letting conversations die without resurrecting them. It means allowing silence to stretch without filling it. It means letting others feel the consequences of losing your presence while you remain centered, composed, and unbothered. Because the truth is simple. Your absence is more powerful than your pursuit. When you remove your energy from someone's life, you create a psychological vacuum that demands to be acknowledged. People feel the shift. They feel the drop in attention. They feel the loss of your presence. They feel the quiet echo of your silence. And in that silence, their mind plays every possible scenario. Did you lose interest? Did you find someone better? Did you level up? Did you outgrow them? Did they mess up? Were they never important? That spiral becomes the leash you once handed them, and now it is wrapped around your hand instead. This is the power of not chasing. The chase flips. You become the one they remember at night. You become the one they compare others to. You become the one they regret losing. You become the one they wish they understood better. You become the one their ego cannot forget. You become the one their mind keeps returning to. But understand this: your goal is not to manipulate others into chasing you. Your goal is to elevate yourself to such a height of discipline, purpose, and inner strength that chasing anyone feels beneath your identity. When you stop chasing, you free your energy for things that elevate your life, building your skills, strengthening your mind, sharpening your discipline, crafting your mission, creating abundance, and mastering yourself. You stop pouring time into people who cannot reciprocate. You stop wasting effort on situations that do not honor your value. You stop diluting your power in the pursuit of external approval. When you stop chasing, you redirect your energy inward, and that is where transformation happens. You become sharper. You become colder. You become more focused. You become more selective. And selection is the ultimate expression of power. You choose who enters your life. You choose who earns your attention. You choose who gets a response. You choose who is allowed into your mental kingdom. Not everyone qualifies. Not everyone deserves access. Not everyone should stay. Your life becomes curated, intentional, protected, and the people who remain are those who genuinely align with your mission, not those who benefited from your desperation. This is how you build a life that feels powerful, not chaotic. A life that feels aligned, not scattered. A life that feels sovereign, not influenced. Never chase again. Let them feel the void. Let them feel the silence. Let them feel the loss. Let them feel the difference between having you and missing you. Because once you stop chasing, you become the man who cannot be replaced. Comment: I never chase again. Number 10. The man who needs nothing becomes the man who receives everything. Power reaches its highest expression when a man masters the ultimate discipline, needing nothing from anyone. This is not detachment born from bitterness or isolation. It is detachment born from inner abundance, from a foundation so strong that nothing external can shake your identity. When you need nothing, you cannot be controlled. When you need nothing, you cannot be manipulated. When you need nothing, you cannot be broken. You move differently. You speak differently. You think differently. People feel something in you that they cannot name but instinctively respect, because the human mind bows to those it cannot sway. The man who needs nothing is the man who cannot be bribed with attention, seduced by flattery, distracted by chaos, or destabilized by abandonment. He stands rooted in purpose, not emotion, in direction, not desire, in values, not validation. Most men crumble because their needs are visible. They need approval, need companionship, need reassurance, need to be seen, need to be liked, need to be chosen, need to be accepted. And visible need is visible weakness. But the man who transcends need becomes a fortress, not closed but fortified, not distant but disciplined, not heartless but sovereign. Machiavelli understood that necessity is a chain. They who require much are controlled by much, but they who stand self-contained become unpredictable and therefore powerful. When you no longer chase love, it arrives without resistance. When you no longer beg for respect, people offer it freely. When you no longer seek validation, your confidence becomes magnetic. When you no longer fear loss, you radiate abundance, and abundance changes your posture. You walk with intention, not desperation. Your silence becomes authority. Your presence becomes influence. Your decisions become cleaner, sharper, freer from emotional fog. You begin to attract people who value strength, stability, and self-respect, because like attracts like. And you repel those who feed on weakness, inconsistency, and emotional dependency, because predators walk away from prey they cannot pierce. This is the beauty of needing nothing. Your environment filters itself. The right people draw closer, the wrong people fall away. The right opportunities find you, the wrong ones dissolve. Your life becomes aligned, not because you chased alignment, but because you became aligned within yourself. And here is the deeper truth. Needing nothing is not about having everything. It is about being everything you once sought externally. You become your own validation, your own confidence, your own emotional anchor, your own sense of worth. You stop outsourcing what only you can build. You stop giving people the power to define you. You stop handing the world control over your emotional climate. You become your own source. That is the man people admire. That is the man people fear losing. That is the man people respect without negotiation. And as you evolve into this state, you begin to understand why the world chases the man who chases nothing, because he is rare, he is centered, he is complete, and he stands outside the reach of ordinary influence. That is who you are becoming, a man who is guided by mission, not emotion. A man who is loyal to his purpose, not his impulses. A man who needs nothing and therefore receives everything. Remember this truth as you walk forward. Your value is not in who wants you, but in who cannot shake you. Your strength is not in what you control, but in what does not control you. And your power is not in how loudly you speak, but in how silently you stand. You are entering a new realm of self-mastery, and the world will feel it before you ever announce it. Comment, I need nothing, I am whole.